So my favorite part of Super Bowl LIX was when the guy who was waving the Palestinian flag and the Sudan flag had crashed the halftime Super Bowl special. So in some respects, Kendrick Lamar kind of crashed the Super Bowl, but then this guy named Zul-Qarnain Nantambu had crashed the Super Bowl halftime special. What did Kendrick Lamar say? Well, he sung like 5 different rap songs. He gave Drake some hell. And then he also had mentioned that the revolution will be televised, that right now it is the right time, but you got the wrong guy. So we found out who that guy was. He jumped up on the car. He was waving the Palestinian flag and the Sudanese flag. There's a civil war going on in Sudan right now. And in Palestine, of course, there's the genocide. 300,000 children have been killed, and it keeps on going. I mean, my God, this war, this Nakba has been going on since 1948, and hell, it's probably been going on since Alexander the Great. So Zul-Qarnain Nantambu, 41, had waved the Palestinian flag, and I got a bunch of information here, so let's talk about it. So he said that he felt compelled to use the halftime show to highlight human suffering. We'll say Nantambu. So Mr. Nantambu, he felt compelled to use that moment to highlight the human suffering that's going on in Sudan and Palestine. The flag had the words Sudan and Gaza written on it. He's 41 years of age. He was accepted a month ago to be a part of the member of the field cast after somebody had shared an application with him. He is an artist out in New Orleans. Now, Donald had said that they were going to take over Gaza and then turn it into a Riviera, right? So America's going to put boots on the ground. Is that what we're going to do? We're going to militarily occupy a war-torn region. You just had Ron Paul just come out saying that that is a very bad idea. Not only is that going to push Saudi Arabia to get off the petrodollar, if the Saudi Arabia gets off the petrodollar, well, then you could just say goodbye to the American dollar being the world reserve currency and hello to the Great Depression. So Nantambu said he doesn't want Gaza to be taken over by the United States, and he doesn't want the Palestinian people to be expelled to Jordan or Egypt, and he doesn't want it to be turned into a bunch of Trump hotels and casinos. Now, Nantambu says that he does believe that there is goodness in Yain Fuhrer, in the Donald, and he says that he needs to act on that goodness. And Nantambu, he also says, I hope that God shifts Trump's heart to be empathetic and compassionate to those who are suffering in Palestine and do what is right by the Palestinians. And if he can, to help the Sudanese, which I'm sure he can do. Nantambu said his protest was inspired by his Islamic faith, which he says represents truth, justice, and peace, and his love for the Palestinian and Sudanese people who are suffering. And I know that it would invigorate their faith seeing somebody supporting them and thinking about them on such a grand stage to bring awareness to that, to their struggles. Representative for Rock Nation, which was the corporation that produced the halftime show, said that the incident was not planned, that the individual acted on their own. Nantambu said Lamar's performance and the use of symbolism with flags and revolution kept him from backing out of the protest. Nantambu continued, he had the people formulate the American flag. There's 2 big black flags with his record label, and he talked about the revolution being televised, and he talked about consciousness. The show had featured Samuel L. Jackson as Uncle Sam when he introduced it, providing commentary, criticism, and then gratefully, thank God, Nantambu was released without any charges. So they had detained him, and it looked like, I guess they arrested him. But was it New Orleans? Where was the damn Super Bowl at? I think he's from New Orleans. Was it in New Orleans too? But he was released without any charges, so he's not going to face any charges with his act of freedom of expression. He's got the First Amendment right to do it. What laws did he break? He was working at a job. He pulled out a Palestinian flag and ran around with it for a bit. And actually, it was said that it didn't even make the broadcast of the show. It was just that people had captured it on their camera phones from the side. The NFL, they're being fucking pricks about it. They banned the protester for life from its stadiums and events. And what's up with Fox News giving Kanye West some airtime? Kanye is just straight up selling Nazi t-shirts. Just a t-shirt with a swastika on it. He's just straight up selling those t-shirts. And he was on Twitter just shitting on everybody for about a day or two, and then he was bragging about how he's a Nazi and just saying all this anti-Semitic crap. Apple Music didn't comment. The NFL is going to ban Nantambu for life from its stadiums and events. What the fuck? Fucking NFL. Fuck you, NFL. Jesus fuck. Nantambu was identified on social media. He posted images from the protest on his Instagram account. He said he was prepared for the worst, but he also hoped for the best before he unveiled his flag. So here's another shot of Nantambu in his studio. Nantambu actually does a lot. He's not just an artist. He says that he's a rapper and some other things we'll find out about. Maybe Nantambu says maybe we don't have the military prowess to stop the war, so there's a dig at the might of the American empire and our militarism. Maybe we're not strong enough to stop the war. Maybe we can't stop Israel from doing its genocide. Maybe we just got to suck Israel's dick. Maybe we just got to be Joe Biden 2.0. We got to do what Joe Biden started. You have to continue what Joe Biden started. You can't uphold the ceasefire. You're not strong enough to stand up to Netanyahu. You're just not strong enough. This is America Last agenda. We're going to put Israel on top of Mount Sinai, and they can look down upon all of us plebes while enjoying their health care. We just sent them $7 billion. $7 billion of a bunch of munitions and Hellfire missiles and a whole bunch of $7 billion worth of weapons of war. Nantambu said that it wasn't a part of Kendrick Lamar's plan. He don't want to attribute any of that to Kendrick Lamar because he didn't know anything about it. On the isolated outskirts, there's a strip where it's liberty or death, victory or Gaza, said Nantambu. Nantambu was a part of the 400-member field cast. Nantambu self-described on social media as a financial freedom fighter, hip-hop artist, filmmaker, and fashion designer. He rarely posts about activist causes, devoting the vast majority of his online presence to his various ventures. However, on October 14, 2023, he called for the liberation to the land of much history and turmoil, from the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, from Holy Jerusalem to Jericho. On the isolated outskirts, Martin Luther King talked about Jericho. On the isolated outskirts, there's a strip where it's liberty, death, victory for Gaza, he said on Instagram. Last January, Nantambu castigated artist DJ Khaled, who is of Palestinian descent, for not being outspoken enough about the Palestinian cause. New Orleans for Palestine on social media praised Nantambu for a single brave act sparked the internet like no multi-million-dollar Zionist propaganda ever could. There's him with the flag at the protest, right? It says Sudan, Gaza, and I guess they got very similar flags, right? Because that black bar is the middle of it. They got like a green triangle, and then he's got that red right there. Sudan, Gaza. There's a civil war in Sudan and a genocide going on in Gaza. The self-styled freedom fighter says his protest wasn't political, but just a sign of solidarity. A sign of solidarity with suffering Muslims in those hot spots. He was inspired to act by his faith in Islam. Praise be to Allah. By the mercy and permission of Allah, it was me, Nantambu. The protest was a way of showing solidarity with the people suffering over there. We live a life of luxury in comparison to what they're going through. I wanted to show that we are all united, that they are loved. Said the 43-year-old New Orleans native. I thought it said it was 41. Is he 41 or 43? Damn fake news, bunch of media ass. They don't know. They are loved here by believers. They are prayed for here by believers, and we're in solidarity and unity with them, praying for the betterment of that situation. Nantambu says he does not seek the limelight. I'm just a servant, he said. I don't want to be exalted. I don't want to be praised. The NFL confirmed the protester was a part of the 400-member field cast. The individual will be banned for life from all NFL stadiums and events, NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy said in an email statement. So, fuck the Super Bowl, right? Fuck the NFL. Fuck the goddamn NFL. We need some other goddamn corporation. You know, the Kaepernick, I mean, I like the NFL became interesting when Kaepernick was doing his little kneeling protest. That's when it became interesting. That one guy was sitting there saying a bunch of racist crap, and he was like banned from the NFL. I like when the NFL did that. I don't like how the NFL is doing this to this guy. Isn't he just, a freedom fighter just like anybody else? Says that this is not a paywall. No, I don't want to read this. This is the one I want to read. So you had Mehdi Hassan just released this right here, and then I got some history, about how long Palestine has been a nation. The nation of Palestine has been around since the land of Canaan, since the land of the Philistines. Israel just killed a pregnant Palestinian woman, and the Western media doesn't care. How many Palestinian women and children have to be killed in the occupied West Bank before anyone in the U.S. or U.K. gives a damn? This is a great article. It's a great point, too. So Gaza, right, there's a ceasefire, but now the shooting and the killings are happening in the West Bank and southern Lebanon. Israel's still bombing southern Lebanon, and they're killing people in Gaza, too. I saw videos of it. It's excruciating, actually. X is free speech absolutist, and so you get to see all those videos, but it's just atrocious, just seeing dead kids day in and day out, every goddamn day. It's fucking sick. If you're ignorant during the, era of the information, the age of information, during the information age, and you're ignorant, we don't have the right to be ignorant. This is fucking despicable. This is gross, and this shows how America believes in immorality, criminality, and hypocrisy. The main policy of America is criminality, immorality, and hypocrisy. So this woman had posted on her social media account, "To my unborn child with you, I will become a mother for the first time. I can't believe how quickly this pregnancy has passed and how you have grown quietly within my womb, waiting for my first joy." This is the last words posted online by Sundis Shalabi, who is 8 months pregnant. Earlier on Sunday morning, the 23-year-old Palestinian mother-to-be was killed by the Israeli military in the Nur Shams refugee camp on the outskirts of Tal Karim in the occupied West Bank, in what the Palestinian Foreign Ministry is calling a crime of execution and the targeting of defenseless civilians. Why are we doing this? Why are we arming Israel to continue to kill defenseless civilians? They're just executing people. They killed a pregnant woman. It's almost like they're just trying to be as sick and depraved as they could possibly be. They're bombing hospitals, bombing schools, bombing refugee camps. They keep on bombing. They don't stop with their bombings. And they're not just bombing military targets. Terrorism is when you attack the people for a political purpose. Shalabi and her husband, Yazan Abu Shola, were shot in their car, with her husband critically injured. Their unborn child was also killed. Medical teams were unable to save the baby's life due to the Israeli occupation on preventing the transfer of the injured to the hospital. The Palestinian Health Ministry in Ramallah had said. So the Israelis shot and killed an innocent young woman, caused the death of her unborn baby too, right? So if you're pro-life, well, then you should be pissed off. I mean, you didn't just kill a woman and a child, you killed the fetus, you killed that, right? And what abortion people say, the anti-abortionist, oh no, it's a life, it's a life. Oh, okay, well then you killed a mother and you killed her baby, right? That's shocking and depraved and murderous and barbaric and disgusting and despicable. And yet, New York Times, nor the BBC, nor Washington Post, nor CNN has said anything about it. Over the weekend, 3 Israeli hostages were released by Hamas looking gaunt and sunken-eyed. Compare and contrast the coverage they received in the Western media with Shalabi. There were multiple and lengthy stories about their plight in the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, and BBC. What will anger at the sight of gaunt hostages mean for a fragile ceasefire? Really? Gaunt hostages? How about the anger from Palestinians at the non-stop killing of women and children? Just all the killing, any innocent people during this fragile ceasefire. Do Palestinian lives not matter? And unfortunately, to the West, to Americans, a lot of Americans, there's a lot of Americans that's actually good. I loved watching the protesters in the colleges. I didn't like that they lost their college spots and the professors are losing their jobs, but it showed me that there are still good people in America. Abraham Lincoln actually proved that half of America are good people. So stop the persecution of Richard Medhurst. Richard Medhurst has been a virulent critic of Israel. He's a journalist in London, but he's got brown skin. So since he is passionate and very, what do you want to call, very emotive, very dramatic, he gesticulates. He's just very good at broadcasting, and so he doesn't like the genocide. He's pissed off about the genocide, and so he speaks out about it. Now, me and this guy just started, just kind of just talking some bullshit. But then eventually the guy is saying, well, you didn't have any sources, And I was trying to, tell him my perspective, but he just kept coming at me. So then eventually, I found some information. So when it comes to how long the Palestinian people have been in Palestine, well, I got some history here. Now, there's Palestine, Texas, Palestine, Illinois, and East Palestine, Ohio. So there's actually 3 cities in America called Palestine. And so Alexander the Great, he had actually tried to take over Palestine, and when he tried to take over Palestine, he said the resistance fighters died tied to their post. So that means they kept fighting. They were very much dedicated to fighting the battle until they couldn't fight no more, until their body couldn't stand. And so the Romans, he just keeps on talking about some bullshit. But Alexander the Great had conquered Palestine in 332 BCE when he brought it into his Macedonian Empire. This event marked the beginning of the Hellenistic period in Palestine, which lasted until 63 BCE. And then the area would come to be called Palestine, part of various empires, including the Islamic Caliphates beginning in the 7th century and the Ottoman Empire from 1517 until the end of World War I in 1917. So Palestine has been around for, at the very least, Alexander the Great in 332 BC, and then Palestine is going to keep on being Palestine in the 600s, 700s, 800s, 1000s, 11, 12, 13, 1400 till 1517. And then until the end of the World War I, 1917, so 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, the 2000s. So that's, 2,300 years there's been Palestinians. And then he says, well, at least I, showed a source. Unlike you didn't even show your source. Well, Exodus, I started pointing out stuff in the Bible. Exodus 3:8 says that there's the land of the Canaanites, among others, which corresponds to the area. And then I also had some other information here. Jesus himself was born in Bethlehem. Where's Bethlehem located today? It's located in Palestine. He lived in Nazareth, Galilee, and preached in various areas such as Jerusalem, Samaria, and the region of the Decapolis. That's the area of the 10 cities. Matthew 2:1 mentions Jesus being born in Bethlehem of Judea. Acts 8:1 refers to Samaria, which is part of the broader region. Luke 4:31 talks about Jesus teaching in Galilee. The region is often referred to as Canaan in the land that God promises to the descendants of Abraham. That's Genesis 12:7, Genesis 17:8. So Genesis 12:7 and Genesis 17:8. The descendants of Abraham, these are called the Abrahamic religions. So that line right there from Genesis 12:7 and 17:8 could apply equally to Christians, Muslims, or the Jewish folks. All 3 of them can claim it. And then Exodus 3:8 speaks of the land of the Canaanites, among others, which corresponds to the area. I'd also mention the Philistine reference, or the Palestine being Philistines. Let's check it out right here. The name Palestine likely originates from the ancient term Philistia, referring to the land of the Philistines. Where did the Philistines live? They lived in Philistia. Was Goliath, I want to say David and Goliath was Philistines. Is that true? But then Philistines, isn't that the King Saul? King Saul had told David to get the foreskins of the Philistines. Isn't that what it says? We'll get to that in a second. He wanted to get rid of David, so he put him out into the military. The Philistine foreskins, yeah. So King Saul is going to send King David out to go kill 200 Philistines and bring their foreskins back instead of scalping them, right? There's a bunch of scalping that happened in early America during before the Revolution, during the French and So you had the 200 Philistine foreskins. Why does it matter? Well, it's the Philistines. So King Saul tried to have David get him killed by the Philistines, but apparently David was like, he wanted to marry Saul's daughter, and he says, all right, you can marry my daughter, but you got to give me 200 Philistine, or he's got to get 100, I don't know how many foreskins, which is, the skin of your pecker, to bring the foreskin, the piece of the penis, bring their penises back to me. I want 200 Philistines' penis in my pocket tomorrow. Why did Saul ask David for 100 foreskins? So King Saul asked David for 100 foreskin. Well, David comes back with 200. How about that, Mr. Dowdy Mustafa? How about that? So Goliath is a Philistine giant in the book of Samuel. So even David versus Goliath. So the Israelis have been fighting the Palestinians for quite some time, and I love the story of David versus Goliath. I almost feel like that's the reason David became king. Once you have a story like that, the guy was like 8 foot tall or some shit, right? So he had to fight an 8 foot tall guy, and the guy is like big, strong, and he's got a sword, and has a whole army behind him, and then just a little shepherd boy has his slingshot and throws a rock at the Goliath, and then Goliath tumbles. So I think God is on the side of the underdog. And so when the Jewish folks, the Hebrews, were in Egypt, they were being oppressed because they were slaves. When Goliath was fighting against David, David was the underdog in that situation too. But if you read the book of Kings over and over again, the book of Kings says that Israel did not do right in the sight of God. Let's take a look at that. Is that it? Let's finish this up here. So he's saying, you're saying the Philistines are Palestine. The concept of Palestine, let's see, it stretches back over at least 2 millennia. I think for almost 3 millennia, 2,300 years. Palestine was used in antiquity by different cultures to describe a region in the eastern Mediterranean. There was something else I had read that said that they went to Palestine and it was a beautiful region. Oh man, it's as beautiful as Palestine. It was the name the Romans gave to the area. Okay, that's enough out of you. Let's see. Palestine today often refers to the territories of the West Bank and Gaza. The Palestinian Authority was created in the 1990s, and technically speaking, they established the state of Palestine, the Palestinian National Council did, in 1988. But then people didn't even recognize that. So I think there's a difference between nation states and nations. Nations is when you unite with a common idea. So there could be, a Jewish nation, there could be the American nation, there could be the blue nation. As long as you unite around one idea, you don't need a state in order to identify with. A lot of people call themselves Americans, but they're technically like Georgian Americans, Tennessee Americans, Montanian, I don't know what a Montanian is called, but Montanian Americans too. So you're both your state and your country in America. After the Jewish revolt in 135 CE, the Romans renamed it Syria Palestinia. So that means Palestine has been, named since 135 CE. Palestine derives from Philistia, after the Philistines who settled along the coast of Canaan in the 12th century BCE. So that means Palestine has been around for over 3,000 years. 12th century BC, so that's like 3,300 years. And then it's been called Judea, Canaan, Syria, Palestinia when it was under the Roman rule at about 135 CE. The Philistines were a group living in parts of the coastal region of the modern-day Gaza Strip. Cities like Gaza, Ashkelon, and Ashdod were a part of Philistia. 1 Samuel 6:17. And then, is that everything that I said? Alexander the Great had, conquered them 332 BC. And then anything else? Let's see. Islamic caliphates. I had mentioned all this. Yeah, so that's everything there. Let's check this notification. Okay, so that doesn't say anything. What was the question I was wanting to find out? Oh, shit. I'm going to have to rewatch all this just to remember the damn question. Palestine. We're talking about how long Palestine has been around, and I can't remember what I was going to ask, so we'll have to do that again. This is long enough.